Well, looks like I'm great at this, so that's gonna be bad for your negotiating position. I expect a lengthy...
Did I drool on you?
I don't think so.
Well, you see why we thought of... Well, why Trackstar thought of you.
It makes sense, yeah.
Meet me at the SDN offices tomorrow. I'm not done saving you yet.
Look, there is no such thing as the perfect game. But stick with me here, because I do believe there is such a thing as playing the perfect game at the perfect time. And playing that specific game at that specific time can genuinely have a significant impact on you, your thoughts, your feelings, not just about the game itself, but in general. For me personally, out of all the fantastic titles I played this year, Dispatch was that game. But let me be clear here, this is not a review. If you've watched my videos before, you know this is pretty different. But what will remain the same is I'm speaking from raw experience and emotion, and at no point is my goal to sell you something. I simply want to tell you a story. When Dispatch was first announced, I honestly didn't think much of it. Truth is, I haven't really played many games in this genre. I remember playing a couple of chapters of Telltale's The Walking Dead, as well as a bit of Tales from the Borderlands, but I didn't finish either of those games, and they didn't really have much of an impact on me at the time. As I learned more about Dispatch and the first couple of episodes were released, though, it caught my attention, and I knew I would eventually play it and probably enjoy it. But I decided to wait until all episodes were out before I finally sat down with it. And what I didn't know was that it would stick with me to the degree that it did. Out of all the reasons why it did, the first one was immediately apparent. Superheroes are a big part of the zeitgeist. They have been for many, many years and will likely be for many more. I'm a big fan of superhero stories, but that alone isn't enough to convince me to play a game. What made me gravitate towards Dispatch as I saw more of it was its characters. From the get-go, the sort of rough and tumble, raw, hard on their sleeve feeling these characters evoke was captivating. And in a narrative game where decisions you make impact those characters, then you as a player need to care. Otherwise, everything falls flat. It's clear from the moment you start episode 1 that the people behind the creation of these characters understood that assignment, and that was further bolstered by the actors behind each character. The writing and performances felt real in a way that is frankly hard to describe without sounding silly or like I'm trying to be an auteur. But the point is, no matter how super these characters were, whether they were a bat person or a demon or a cursed circus strongman, they felt like real people with real problems and feelings. And off rip, that, along with the world they built, was this game's superpower. When I say the world they built, yes, I'm talking about LA. But it's not truly LA. And I don't mean that in the sense that there are superheroes flying around, but rather, the essence of how they've presented it is one that only someone that's lived there and loved it, or that has wanted to live there at some point in their lives, could have come up with. It's clear from this kind of establishing shot of the city that there's a sort of magic here. This is an LA that even when dealing with villains in addition to the same problems that actual real-life LA has, is still, in essence, the perfect version of it. And look, right now you may be thinking, okay, why does this matter? Truth be told, even if you've never cared about LA, I think when you play this game, you will want to live in this idealized version of it. But, remember when I said there is such a thing as playing the perfect game at the perfect time? Not to get super personal on YouTube, but this aspect of the game really did speak to me in a way I wasn't expecting. I lived in Southern California for a little over 4 years, and before that stint there, I'd always wanted to live there, largely due to my line of work in games. I just always thought that that was where I needed to be, and thankfully, when I finally got there, I actually loved it. Eventually, I left. But in the back of my mind, I always thought that I'd end up going back, both because of work and because it felt like home. As it goes with life, though, plans and circumstances change, and what was once a plan to go back west with a job I thought and hoped I'd be at for a long time became a plan to move further east with a completely different job. When I picked up Dispatch, I was wrestling with those emotions. A part of me was distraught at the idea of not returning to a place that felt like home, but another part of me was trying to convince myself that those were silly thoughts, and that I was looking at California through rose-tinted glasses. The truth is, I was, and I am. But the way the team behind Dispatch presented LA made me realize that I was not alone in feeling that way about that place. Love it or hate it, there is a magic to it, even if there are no superheroes flying around in actuality. Whether it was scenes in Robert's dinky, ran-down apartment, seedy bars across town, the Superhero Dispatch Network office, or some corner of the city, the sense of place was vivid, akin to actual scenarios you yourself have lived through and look back to with a sense of nostalgia. Now, the criticism that I've heard about this kind of game, and that I myself have felt in the past, is that the gameplay boils down to quick time events or really simple and menial tasks that don't really engage the average player, who maybe is not playing games for the narrative. And I understand that. I think that's valid. But this was the first game of this genre where I felt like not only was the actual gameplay engaging, but it perfectly synergized with the story it was trying to tell. I mean, the core gameplay is the title of the game. You, as Robert, are in charge of a supervillain turned superhero team as their dispatcher. So in every episode, there's a segment where different missions pop up, and you need to send the right hero or heroes for the job. These missions range from helping an elderly lady arrive to an appointment on time, to fighting supervillains wreaking havoc across the city. Each hero on your team has specialties, and as you level them up, you can choose to lean into those specialties, make them more balanced, or lean into something else. And every mission can obviously be completed successfully or failed, with varying consequences. What really endeared me to this kind of gameplay, though, was how well it served as a vehicle to continue growing closer to these characters. Interactions with them weren't purely reserved for cutscenes where you choose from different dialogue options. This was a big part, as each segment had lots of banter from each character both towards each other and towards you. Additionally, this kind of more lax gameplay was exactly what I needed after pretty much a straight month of only playing and creating content around art creators. But there was still a level of friction and difficulty in Dispatch's gameplay segments, both with learning the ins and outs, as well as the quick thinking required for some of its more intense episodes. It struck a perfect balance for me, and honestly, I wouldn't be opposed if they lean into these segments more heavily in a sequel. The story of Dispatch is a hopeful one. Sure, things can change based on your decisions, and you can even make a pretty dark decision in the finale. But in the grand scheme, it's a story about redemption and catharsis. Every character on your team can change for the better, and the themes of found family and purpose deliver in a big way. Playing this game actually made me think long and hard about the concept of superhero fatigue. As someone who's read comics his whole life and that has been following the MCU since the beginning, for a moment I thought that fatigue was real. But as it turns out, grounded, heartfelt stories still find their audience, even with a superhero paint job over them. And that's exactly what Dispatch is. The fact that it's a superhero story is an integral part of the game, but in a way, it's almost secondary. And that's in large part due to how well crafted the characters and their struggles are. And look, maybe you'll disagree with me here, but at the end of the day, I don't think superheroes will ever truly go out of style, because that happening means hope and optimism going out of style. And I think they dim, but they do not ever truly go away. How I felt by the time I finished Dispatch can only be described as a mix of catharsis and nostalgia and a whole array of complicated emotions that I'd rather not bore you with, but most importantly, I felt happy, and I wanted more. So if you do decide to play it, I hope you feel those things too. If you made it this far, I appreciate you being here, and I wish you all the best in 2026.